Ray Nagin and them announced that they're going to be spending $1.1 billion down in that area. That they're not going to be waiting any longer for the federal government to come along. Now, one of the things that concerned me about that was when you had the comments from the Louisiana, I think, State Authority, which is the organization that's in charge of providing the funding through the federal government and other entities. They had made a comment that they were only going to invest in things that would have a good return in the communities. And so I'm concerned about that because that's based on someone's subjective thought about what exists in the community and is worth investing in. So how do you interpret that, Mark?
Well, I mean, based on what we've seen, and based on before Katrina, during Katrina, and after Katrina, one thing that's not worth anything at all are the people. And so it seems to me that the only thing they're going to be willing to invest in are things that will bring not just any kind of return, but financial return. What you're beginning to see already is a shift in the way New Orleans is constructed, so that it's no longer this authentic cultural place. It's no longer a chocolate city, even though Ray tried to ignore that it really is a chocolate city, right? Instead, it's going to become something that's corporatized, something that's taken over, and the justification is going to be, because we don't have federal funding, because we have to invest our own money, we have to do things that are profit motivated, we have to do things that are profit smart, and as a consequence, we're not going to invest in the local school, we're not going to invest in restoring the local community center. No, we're going to invest in building certain types of structures that will bring money and force other people in and further displace and dislocate the people who were already marginalized by being from the Katrina disaster in the first place.
And you know what's scary about that is that at the time of the disaster, the community screamed and predicted this exact fact would happen. They said that, you know, now that we've had this disaster, they're going to try to move us out of the Ninth Ward because that's great property to develop and redevelop and make, you know, financially viable. And, you know, politicians would come down there and visit the town and said, oh no, we're not going to do that, we're going to rebuild New Orleans just the way it was, and all that. It's coming to fruition. Like, it wasn't just some, you know, some fantasized premonition. It was an accurate prediction based on, quite frankly, the history of this country and how we've treated people in the past. That has to be frustrating.
And also when you look at the plans, I mean, they laid it out in the plans. They got parks, they got walkways, no housing. And this isn't the Ninth Ward. So, I mean, if they put it down on paper to show you that they're not going to be rebuilt the way they had it before.
Yeah, I think there has to be some accountability because the outrage that a lot of people felt when it first happened, and, you know, allegedly the president as well, you know, came out there and we're going to do this and this. I think that has to continue, and I think that's kind of dying down because if the outrage doesn't continue, first of all, we should be appalled that this length of time has happened, and, you know, this is the major time that we're trying to find the billions to go into Katrina. This should have been done a long, long time ago, and if there wasn't a political vehicle to do it, they should have created a political vehicle because this is a monumental first-time event, you know, with this natural disaster. But second of all, we need to make sure that if there are corporations that are going in there for selfish or political reasons, that they're going to be held accountable. Because, you know, I mean, there's two ways to get money, or there's more than two ways, but two obvious ways to get money into the Katrina victims area. One of them is the sympathy factor. You know, people, maybe, you know, when you have Mardi Gras, people pay $10 more than they would for services or what they're buying, and all of that money goes to a fund in order to, so, you know, people who are going to extend themselves, you know, on small levels or large levels, corporations as well, you know, just for the sake of giving. And then you have the investment factor. People aren't going to invest money in something unless they know they're going to have a return. Make sure that there's an economic plan set up so that people will invest money, you know, not for selfish reasons only, just to take advantage, but to get a return and also be helping as well.
You know, one of the things is talking about the bill that was in the Congress, that $7.7 million was in that particular bill that was attached to the war funding, was relief for people that are still paying mortgages on homes that don't exist anymore. You know, so I mean, to play pure politics with both situations, you know, it really doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't know how we move the conversation to action, Mark. I mean, how do we get from, you know, this big delay? It's been 19 months now, and nothing has happened. Is it here we go with your argument again, here comes the private sector, they'll save the day? Is that we have to look to profit in order to create communities again?
If we look to the market, then we'll be further dislocated. The market has never done anything good for black folk. The market has never done anything good for poor folk. The problem here is that black people aren't compelling victims. They never have been. They never will be. You know, John F. Kennedy holds up, you know, black babies in Harlem, and it's a publicity stunt. Bobby Kennedy holds up white babies in Appalachia, and there's a war on poverty. You see, so black suffering is always tolerable. And so we can never look to the government to intervene on our behalf to prevent our suffering. That's something we have to do. Now, that's not to say that we should relinquish the role, or relinquish, our investment in the state. I'm not saying we shouldn't demand more from the government, but the first thing black people did to help themselves and be responsible was to realize the government wasn't working. And then to force the government's hand. And that's when you see the activists, that's when you see the local activists, the national activists, we see the politicians, the non-governmental organizations. I'm talking about like the NAACP and things like that. We all, in the old NAACP, not the new one, not the Bruce Gordon NAACP, but the real NAACP, whatever that is, intervening and really forcing the hand of the state to say, look, people are suffering, people are dying. We're paying mortgages to prevent having bad credit for houses that are afloat or don't exist at all. Those are things that we have to do as a people. We have to stand up. We have to offer our voices in stronger fashion.